John Martin Feeney, known professionally as John Ford, is one of the most influential, enduring, and celebrated filmmakers in the story of cinema. Ford's 50-year career of more than 140 films, 80 of which are westerns, most shot in his beloved Monument Valley of Arizona, are some of cinema's most celebrated, acclaimed, and still profitable films, such as Stagecoach, 1939, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962, as well as cinematic adaptations of literary classics, such as The Grapes of Wrath, 1940. He won a record 6 Academy Awards, including 4 for Best Director, with 2 back-to-back wins.
Can I ask you what particular element about the Western appealed to you from the beginning?
I wouldn't know.
For almost his entire career, John Ford celebrated the expansionism of European settlers, highlighting an Anglo point of view. His most famous, violent, and white nationalist film would be his most economically successful, The Searchers, 1956.
What good did that do you?
By what you preach, none. But what that Comanche believes, ain't got no eyes, he can't enter the spirit land, has to wander forever between the winds. You get it, Reverend. Come on, blanket head.
However, by the twilight of his career in the 1960s, a majority of the pro-expansionism population of the silent era had all but died away. A new post-World War II baby boomer generation will find themselves questioning many popular ideals held steadfast by previous generations. One such ideal was the genocide of the native people of North America. As the Nuremberg trials expanded the idea of war crimes against humanity by European white supremacist Nazis, many Americans began to look at our own country's history.
War is his life. He's fierce, he's smart, and he's meaner than sin.
Possibly you can only think of the past, but I'm here to think about the future.
John Ford clearly addressed this national observation in his last Western, Cheyenne Autumn. The filmmaker makes an about-face on the subject of Native Americans and tells a more honest portrayal of history.
Wachowski, you fought Indians before.
I fought Indians who wanted to fight me. Not just some poor, starving blankheads trying to go home.
Cheyenne Autumn is very loosely based on actual events of the North Cheyenne people after the humiliating defeat of the American Army at the Battle of Little Bighorn, which took place on the country's centennial. The largest organized gathering of Native American warriors in U.S. history proved to be a formidable adversary. The U.S. response of exterminating the bison, the primary food source for Native Americans, would forever crush any possibility of another Native American uprising. Forcing Native Americans onto reservations, fully dependent on the U.S. government, was more of a death sentence, punishment, and ultimately genocide of the original people of North America. Some Cheyenne people revolted. Led by Dull Knife and Little Wolf, a group of warriors and children trekked back to their rightful ancestral lands.
Where are they going?
Home.
Home?
What you call Yellowstone country.
Cheyenne Autumn recounts the events of this perilous journey home. A distinct departure in tone, casting, and subject matter, illustrating the plight of Native Americans. John himself proclaimed the film to be an elegy.
Even a dog can go where he likes, but not a Cheyenne.
One of the most odd and jarring sequences of the film is the sudden and seemingly left-field scenes of Jimmy Stewart as famed gunslinger and friend of Ford, Wyatt Earp.
Major, where's the card?
What? If we shoot him, we won't have anyone left to play with.
Gentlemen.
It's a good point. New deck. Now, Mayor, about all these things you read in the newspaper. Now, did you ever in your whole life read anything true in that paper?
Yet Cheyenne Autumn makes controversial observations of the deplorable relationship between media and propaganda, such as this scene of a newspaper owner faced with propaganda or truth of Native Americans.
Bloodthirsty savages on the loose, burning, killing, violating beautiful white women. It's not news anymore. We're going to take a different tack. From now on, we're going to grieve for the noble red man.
John Ford was no stranger to firsts in cinema, such as casting authentic Navajo extras who were free to speak their own native language in key scenes such as this. Historians have noted the direct translation by the Native Americans as making fun of the actors, costumes, and ridiculousness of the scene. A rare moment in cinema history, Native peoples were given a voice to express themselves. However, Cheyenne Autumn will continue the stereotypical Hollywood tradition of casting Mexican performers to play Native Americans, such as Ricardo Montalban, Gilbert Roland, Dolores Del Rio, and Sal Mineo. Mexican Americans who were granted citizenship after the Mexican-American War were also persecuted and genocided by Anglo-terrorists.
The straw has come between us. Yes. Now our people must choose who they want to follow.
Another massive artistic liberty Cheyenne Autumn took is the historical portrayal of empathetic American soldier Captain Thomas Archer.
You'd like me to do something about it?
Well, sir, I only know what those Cheyenne have gone through. If the people had seen it, they wouldn't have liked it.
People?
The Carol Baker character is greatly exaggerated. It is well documented. Quaker school teachers often forced a Christian education to the point of physical and verbal abuse, lashings, and even murder.
I don't blame them for being early. You and I know what this means to them, Uncle.
The romantic, yet highly dramatized character of Captain Oscar Wessel was a real figure in American history, who hosted a Cheyenne group that surrendered with women and children. The actor's inconsistent German accent, piercing blue eyes, blonde hair, and mustache, as well as strict adherence to orders, is a strong reminder of Nazis from World War II.
There will be no more food, no more water, and no more firewood until they change their minds.
They will not go back.
Most of the film is hyperdramatized and serialized, such as this breakout scene. There was a group of Cheyenne held in a barn in 40-degree below zero weather without food, water, or firewood for 4 days. Most died under the harsh conditions. The remaining few that survived eventually returned to their ancestral sacred lands near the Black Hills.
I sure would like to kill me an Indian.
Cheyenne Autumn cinematographer William Clothier shot the film in Super Panavision 70 and was nominated for an Academy Award. Cheyenne Autumn was a flop in comparison to The Searchers, a telling economic response to 60 years of historical fictions that celebrated ruthless supremacy murderers like Uncle Earl. It is obvious the ailing, aging filmmaker John Ford understood perfectly well the power of cinema to cement an entertaining truth, and not just populist propaganda. A cinematic apology from the man who fictionalized Anglo-European atrocities, watered down and justified excessive violence, and for whitewashing an entire nation of people's genocide. Cheyenne Autumn may be a quiet footnote in the epic career of the great filmmaker, but perhaps it is his most insightful. Many modern American filmmakers who have made questionable, toxic, pro-white nationalist films will follow a similar playbook of protecting their legacies with at least one socially positive film at the twilight of their career.
Remember that.
We are asked
to remember much. The white man remembers nothing.